So we've decided to put a surgical team and crew into a submarine, reduce it way down in size, and inject it into an artery.
You mean I'm going along?
As part of the crew, yes.
Wait a minute. They can't shrink me.
Our miniaturizer can shrink anything.
But I don't want to be miniaturized.
Alright, so this is part 5 of my Proteus build. In this video we're going to focus on doing some of the photo etch parts. Finally got in the photo etch set from Paragraphics, as I showed in my recent video on aftermarket parts. So I'm going to start working on the 3 wall sections in the front cabin and doing the controls on those and replacing them with a photo etch. And some of these are going to be lit up, and so I'll show you how I'll be doing that and some of the materials I'll be using in order to make that happen. Alright, let's take a look here. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is to protect the rest of this section here. I'm just going to tape off the parts that I'm going to actually be sanding down. So just put some little bit of tape on there, just some masking tape. Okay, nothing major. Alright, and then on the sides. I won't shoot the edge, so yeah, so nothing major, just covering the rest of the parts so they don't get affected by the Dremel. And all I'm really doing is sanding these down to give you a nice smooth finish. So here's my Dremel, and I just have a just a little cone-shaped sanding bit on there. So all we're going to do is we're just going to sand that down. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so it doesn't have to be pretty. This is all going to be covered by the photo etch, so it's not really going to make any difference if it's rough or smooth. So we just want to get all that raised detail off of there, because it'll just get in the way of the photo etch. What I'm going to do next is go ahead and stick these on, and basically use a pencil. I just have a mechanical pencil here to draw through the openings so that I can drill through and get what I want. So what we'll do, and the same thing, it doesn't have to be perfect, because I can even make the drill holes bigger than they're supposed to be, because it's all going to be covered by the metal. That's the beauty of the photo etch, is that it covers a lot of mistakes. So there, I'm just going to hold that in place and just circle around these. Reposition it. Alright, so that one's fairly easy. The only thing this has are these big 5 holes, nothing else, no little tiny lights through. So you can see, there we go, I have some nice patterns with which to drill through. So that one's ready to go. Likewise, let's go ahead and put the other one on. A little bit of plastic dust there. Let's see, so this one is going to go right here. Okay, and really what I can do is just give it a little line right here, because there are actually some little teeny dots right up here that could look through. So really I just want to kind of drill through the top of that. That'll make it a lot easier. And if actually I can just go ahead and put in some little squares here where the big ones are. Okay. All right, so that gives me a good idea. So these two big parts here definitely have to be opened. All of the other little sections, little circles that are there are at least in the same line as this, if not lower. So what I can do is just draw a little line right here, and we'll just make sure that this whole part here is cut out. Here we go. So same thing. It doesn't have to be perfect, as long as there's enough of an opening for the LEDs to shine through. It's going to be fine. And then once the photo etch is on top of it, it will cover up any imperfections that are there, because they're metal, and that's the great part of it. Once the metal's painted, it will mask it off very well. Light is not leaking through that metal. All right, so let me go ahead and switch out my my Dremel bit, and we'll go ahead and do the next. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this one here. And I switched out to a drill bit, a little fine drill bit. So all I'm going to do is, sorry, settle down, Dremel. We'll get to you in a second. Is we're going to drill out these little holes right here, and then I'll probably just cut out this main section. All right, so let's go ahead and do that real quick. All right, so there's 3 of those there, and the plastic tends to build up on the drill bit, so I'm going to carefully use a X-Acto knife and cut that off. I actually broke some drill bits trying to do this sometimes. Got to be really careful. These drill bits are very fine. All right, if you cut most of it off, you can pretty much just pull the rest off. There we go. All right. Tends to build up on that drill bit there a bit. All right. And once again, it doesn't have to be perfect at all. And then I'm going to use a needle file to file it out. They just have to be bigger than the holes that you're going to show the light through. All right. So what I'll do for the remainder, just use a needle file and just clean it up a little bit. It's going to show up. And this particular piece is one of the ones that does have a little bit of a decal, clear cellophane behind it that shows some dowels and things like that. So that's nice. Okay. And of course I have the masking tape to protect the rest of this piece so I don't mess it up. All right, nice little mess there. All right, just to kind of give you the idea. All right, so get that cleaned off. All right, so there we go. Some pretty rough holes. We'll go ahead and put this right on top, and I'll show you. Maybe a little bit of cleanup. Generally, you kind of get the idea. Once this is glued on top, we'll have the nice finished edges of the photo etch that will cover up any of these imperfections. So it's not a really big deal. So sometimes it's better to cut out the entire section. Sometimes it's better to just do parts. It just depends on the actual kit. But I'll go ahead and keep working on that, and then I'll show you how that turns out. Alright, so speaking of imperfections, for some reason, and I kept repeating it, I kept describing this part as having 5 holes. 5. It has 6, clearly, as you can see. Whoa, okay, settle down, Picard. These aren't lights, they're holes. There's 6. There's 6 of them. Alright. I couldn't really reshoot the video because obviously I cut out the part that has 6 holes. Okay. And I cut out this other part here as well for the other part. So I've gone ahead and put an initial paint on them. This one has like a very light gray, and I highlighted those circles with some black paint. I still have to paint in these little teeny dowels in silver to match that up. So this will go on to here. Cover those up. I also completed mostly the second control panel, and this, as I showed in my previous videos, this has 3 different pieces. I will show you in a second. And I tried to match up with the film stills, and I'll show you here in a second. This is more of a metallic, that's more of a gray, and this has the black panels, and really only the top part is shining through, as you can see. So we'll get that lined up as well. Put that on there. And then this whole part will be lit from behind, so we'll get some detail. But what I wanted to show you basically on this one is the photo etch comes with a backlit panel, but for some odd reason it's brown, and I don't get that. I don't know where they picked that color. From what I can tell on the screen grabs, and there aren't too many, it's white. So I don't really like those brown dowels sticking through. So what I'm going to do is, the kit came with some decals right there, and they're the right color. So I'm going to use those, and they should be translucent enough. So I'm going to back this with some thin resin stripping, and then just put the decals on it and cover it up with some type of resin, or possibly some 5-minute epoxy. And I did a little test. I just want to make sure this is going to work. So I do have 2 sets of decals. So you can see in the center there, I used some of the smaller ones over here, which I'm not going to be using on the kit. And I put some 5-minute epoxy onto that. And also too, what I'm working on is, you can see the silver ones there. I'm trying to do some silver epoxy because there's a part on the side, not this particular one, but the other side, that has a piece that should have some silver in it. Let me show you that. Alright, so on this other wall, right along this edge, you have this little teeny, get a focus on that, this little teeny strip. And once again, I'll show you some images in a second. And it actually has little numbers. I think it's supposed to represent the depth or something, but they're kind of silver. So what I want to do is, I want to fill this in with some silver to show through those tiny little holes. And then this piece here will be glued right along this edge. And I masked that off before I painted it. And there's the nice little air vent, 2-piece air vent from the photo etch set that's on the end. That looks nice. And right here is going to be this piece here. And I still have to do some more painting on the dowels and such, but I use the same metallic look that I did on this one right here. So I'm not sure if I'm going to light this up or not. only because it's not really seen that much, and there's really only those six little holes right there that'll shine through, so I don't even know if it's worth it. We'll see. I'll probably put some type of a clear, maybe the 5-minute epoxy again, put some red or some blue or whatever. I'll have to look at the screenshots and see what I'm going to do with that, but I want to finish off that edge, and likewise on here. This one I will light from behind. Move this over. Come on, get in there. Okay. Plus the dowels that I'm going to make up, like I said, with the there we go, with the decal set. And this one likewise has a nice little vent there, really nice. I'm using the 2-piece parts from the Photoetch. You can do it as one single piece, or there's 2 separate pieces. They gave you some options. Glue them together. And then the fire extinguisher, there's a red fire extinguisher that will go right onto here as well. So, all right, so those are coming along nicely. This one's almost ready to go. And I'm going to let that dry a bit so I can test that that's not going to ruin the decal. And basically do the same effect. Come on, pick up. I don't want to touch that. That's still a little wet. Come on. All right, but anyway, I'm going to use the same really thin, flexible styrene. And I have a very thin paper-like plastic styrene. This isn't the piece I was working on, but what I'm going to do is glue that on the back of this piece. And once that's glued onto the metal, I will put the decals from the kit into these 6 little holes here and let them dry so they're not the brown. I don't know why they did that. Very odd. And that'll be like that right there, as you can see. And it looks like it's working out pretty well. It won't be that much of the 5-minute epoxy. It'll just be enough to just fill in these top holes and make it look like it's a clear glass lens on it, and get that hardened into there. And then once it's done, it'll light from behind. And let me get that off there. And then on this piece, I've already painted it the flat gold gray. On the back, I'll create some kind of a little light box or some kind of a curved plastic over it that has white backing on it, so I can put some LEDs in there and light that whole section. So it'll light through these different lenses. It'll light through these with the decals. It'll light through this, and I still have to put some more detail on this as well, this little piece, and possibly put some kind of a decal or one of the kits into there as well. Okay, and then we'll get that working, and then that piece is almost done. That one's almost done, and we just have the back. Let me show you that real quick. All right, so here's the 3 sections of the lab walls that I'm going to have the photo etch detail. Here's the back wall, and I built up this whole piece. I added a little piece there. I still have to do some more puttying and painting of that. I really like this one here. It's a really dark gray. It's going to have some black accents in this when I'm done with it as well. And then this little clear piece is nice. It goes behind it, and it has all the dowels, and that'll light up. So that part will be really nice in the back. The side piece I showed you, and I still have to put on this little piece, which I'm going to fill in with some silver. And then this other side wall, which is probably going to light more than any of them. And it's going to have, as I said, the decals filling in these little circles here. And I'm going to put on some epoxy. And little test I did, let me show you. It's finished up, and that's nice and dry, so worked out well. You can see the decals are there under the clear, and they're in fine shape, didn't hurt them any. So I'll use that same technique on this part right here, where I'll fill in, I'll put the decals in there on some of this sheet styrene and just fill in a little bit of the 5-minute epoxy to give that a clear glass-like top on it, and that will also light from behind. I'll probably do the same on this to give it kind of that glass look when I put it over top of that piece there. Let me actually show you. Okay, so this piece here goes on top of that. You can get a pretty good idea. And it'll light up from behind, so those little white dowels with the little lines on them will light up. It's pretty nice. And I'll add some more color. I'll bring out some more detail on that. But all these parts, very small, very delicate. You can see this has some little handles on it, which I had to glue on. Very tricky. I'll have to touch those up a bit with some more chrome silver. But I'll put some more detail on that as well. So quite a delicate operation, but it's going to be really nice. The payoff's going to be good. So let me go ahead and show you some stills of the sub, and I'm going to show you this wall here, the back wall. It's kind of hard to get some shots of that. The side of this with this little piece here, and just kind of give you an idea what those are going to look like. And here's my completed section of this control panel, and I used the 5-minute epoxy as I stated earlier and put it over top of the decals. So on the back I have a very thin sheet of styrene plastic. Put the decals inside those little rings for the photo etch, and as you can see as I move it around, there's some glossy shine to it. And what this will do is this will seal those decals in so they won't come off. And it looks like little glass dowels, and that's kind of the idea I wanted to go for. And the little metal parts there, the little switches, I used some bare metal foil, which cut off little tiny pieces of it and molded it down onto there with a Q-tip. So it looks pretty good. That one right there in the center looks a little big. I might remove that and put a little smaller piece, but this piece is basically done. And if I move it around, you can see that those dowels light up from behind. So I did try a little bit of a light, an LED behind it, and they looked very bright. So I'm probably gonna do a little more on the back there to mask that off. I just want them to glow. I don't want them to be glaringly bright. I want to be able to see the detail on the front and side of the sub, but I want those dowels to light up. So I think that turned out really well. I do like the decals from the kit better than the photo etch part. So that piece is looking pretty good. And then I'll work on the other one and maybe use a little more of the bare metal foil as well. That brings out some of the shiny details a little better without painting them. All right. Alright, so I have two of the wall sections completed, the back wall and the left wall, and I'll show you those in a second. I had a little bit of issues with this one here. I didn't really finish up that part yet because I have to finish that little edge strip, which I showed you in a previous video. I tried a little idea with some 5-minute epoxy and I ruined it. So Yeah, this part's all clogged up. I tried digging it out, but it's pretty well ruined and messed up. It was very fragile. So I'm gonna have to rebuild that. I'll probably just use some flat styrene and put a piece on top, maybe drill some holes through it. We'll take a look. We'll see how the rest of it goes. I may need to get another photo etch set, but hopefully not. So we'll come back to that. But I did get these other two parts completed. And I wanted to show you a little bit. I mentioned in a previous video a product called bare metal foil. And that's the name of the company. Very nice. It's mainly used for cars and bumpers and that sort of thing. Very good material. There's 3 different kinds. I have a matte aluminum. I have a chrome black. And then I also have a chrome silver, which I won't pull that out right now. But as you can see, here's the black. Here's the aluminum, which is a little duller finish. And then the chrome. And it's very nice. It's very thin. It's actual foil. And it's self-adhesive on the back. So you basically cut off a tiny strip. It works really well on raised pieces. You just put a strip over it, use a Q-tip to smooth it down, and it takes the form of it, and it looks like metal. You can see right there, those metal tubes right there, I made those out of it. And that black box as well is the chrome black as well. So I used it for that. And there's my finished back wall. Panel turned out really nice. I have the lighted dowels behind it, as you can see. So I still have to do some masking on the back so that the light doesn't shine through all the way. The metal will keep all the light from the piece, but around it you can see a little bit around the edge. I have my finished piece on top that I scratch built to first of all give me room for the snorkel to fit in there, and second of all to make it more accurate. The little hatch on that looks really nice. So this piece is ready to go. I think that turned out really, really well. Then my last one is the left side wall, which turned out quite excellently, as you can see. Lots and lots of detail. I'll show you pictures of that again in a second. But I have the fire extinguisher with the label on it. I have the front little air vent. I have the 2 control panels, quite a bit of detail, and they light up as well, as you can see. Those will also light up. To get that detail was really tricky, very small. What I did for the orange and the blue stripes, I used just some striping, very thin striping, and I painted it orange and blue. There's a little piece you can see. And it's self-adhesive as well, so I cut it off and then stuck it on in little pieces. To get the tiny little buttons, if you can see, they're raised. The 2 white ones on the top, too close, and all the black ones down at the bottom there. I have 6 little black knobs as well that are sticking out from the kit, because they do in the actual movie. What I did was I used some round styrene stock. Close up as well. Very thin. I cut off big pieces and just glued it straight up and down. And then when it dried, I used some sprue cutters to just cut it off, and then just painted it black. So let's take a look at these 2 pieces inside the kit, and I painted the floor of it, and we'll see how that looks. Alright, and there are the walls inside of the sub. They're not permanent. So other than this right wall here, these other 2 are nice and all done. Look at that. Really good detail. And I have the green floor. I used the dark Euro green on it. That back wall. And of course, like I said, when I'm done, I will have this part over here with a little bit of a light box, and on the back as well. That'll light up. I probably won't be lighting up the right side, but that's fine. Alright, so those are all completed other than that right one. We'll get that worked on. And I think those turned out quite excellently. Pull that a little closer. Lots and lots of detail. and tried to match it up as well as I could to the stills of the sub. So I will go ahead and end this video with a shot of that sidewall there, and that I showed earlier in the video. And thank you, Cora, for moving your head out of the way so we could see the controls. We don't see many shots of it, so I just had to kind of get some screen grabs and get that going. All right, thanks a lot.